Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Srimad Bhagavatam Review class. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuro Nilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamhiyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavansha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. We are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 4 and today we'll be discussing chapter 8. So in this canto, so far we have discussed the lineage of the daughters of Swayambhuva Manu. So in the middle of the third canto, Vidurji asked Maitreya Muni about the lineage of Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa. So in the third canto, Maitreya Muni described that Swayambhuva Manu had three daughters and two sons. And the three daughters were Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. And two sons were Priyavrat and Uttanpa. So in the third canto, Maitreya Muni described the uh, household life of Devahuti, how she was married to Kardam Muni and how Kapila Dev instructed Devahuti. In the fourth canto, in the beginning, Maitreya Muni described the dynasty of Prasuti and Devahuti and Akuti. So all those stories, they were described. And in the course of description of the daughters of Prasuti, the youngest one was Sati, and she had no children. So then Vidurji asked a question. And then the entire episode of Daksha Yagya was discussed. And ultimately, we discussed last chapter. Sati was reborn as Parvati and she married again Lord Shiva, and the Falashruti was described here. So now in the eighth chapter, so the lineage of all the daughters of Manu are described. So in the beginning of this eighth chapter, before describing the dynasty of the sons of Swayambhuva Manu, Maitreya Muni describes the various children, various sons of Brahmaji, such as Marichi. And he also described the various irreligious descendants of Brahmaji. So Maitreya Muni starts that there were four Kumaras. They appeared from Brahma, and they were Naishthik Brahmacharis. They didn't want to get married, and they didn't want to stay at home. So Srila Prabhupada, he describes in detail about the principle of Brahmacharya. And he says, Griha means home as well as wife. He says, in fact, home does not mean a room or a house. Very important understanding of what is a Griha, Ghar. One who lives with a wife lives at home. Otherwise, a sannyasi or a brahmachari, even though he may live in a room or in a house, he does not live at home. So basically, living in a home means living with a wife. Na griham grihamityahu grihini grihamuchyate tayahi sahitah sarvan purushartham samashnute. So just by staying in a room one does not stay in a home. Grihini griham uchyate. If somebody is staying with a wife, then that person is called as staying in a home. So then after this, Maitreya describes the lineage of Adharma. There was another son of Brahma called as irreligion. And Brahma had a daughter also. And her name was Mrisha. So this Adharma married Mrisha. Irreligion married falsity. And two demons appeared, Dambha and Maya. Dambha means bluffing. Dambha, Darpa, Abhimanascha, Krodha, Parushyameva cha, Ajnanam cha Abhijatasya, Partha Sampada Asurin. Krishna tells in the 16th chapter what are the various limbs of Adharma, qualities of Adharma. Dambha, Darpa. Dambha means you are proud for something which you have, which you don't have. And Darpa means you are proud of something which you have. So Dambha means bluffing. You have no good qualities, you have done nothing, still you are bluffing. And Maya means cheating. So these two are born from Adharma and Mrisha. So although they are again brothers and sisters, but still they got married. So that's how Prabhupada writes, this is the beginning of sex life between brother and sister. This unnatural combination of sex life can be possible in human society only where there is adharma. And this Dambha and Maya, they were taken by another demon, and his name was Nirti. But Nirti had no children. What is Nirti? Chakravarti Thakur describes. Nirti is in charge of the inauspicious direction, southwest direction. Then the Dambha and Maya got married, and from them appeared greed and Nikriti, Lobh or Nikriti. Nikriti means cunningness. They appeared. And from their combination, whenever there is greed and whenever there is cunningness, what will appear is anger and envy. Krodha and Himsa will take birth. And when they got married, when Himsa and anger, envy and anger come together, what happens? Kali comes in. So Kali Purusha appeared as a combination of Krodha and Himsa. And whenever somebody is angry and envious, so Kali means hypocrisy and quarrel. And along with hypocrisy and quarrel, what will come? Harsh speech. That is called as Durukti. So Kali married Durukti and appeared Mrityu and Bhai, Bhiti. So Mrityu and Bhiti appeared from the combination of Kali and Durukti, harsh speech. And when one goes to hell, when one dies and when one is fearful, what is happening? Because he has not done anything adharmic, religious, he'll go to hell. So excessive pain, yatana, and hell, niraya. So these two personalities appear. So that's how Maitreya Muni, he very shortly describes and brief describes the various causes of devastation. He says, I have summarily described the causes of devastation. And why I am speaking all this? What is the benefit of hearing about all this lineage of adharma? Because Prabhupada writes the reason. And Maitreya Muni gives the Falashruti. One who hears this description 3 times attains piety and washes the sinful contamination from his soul. How it will happen? How the piety will come? How the contamination will go? Prabhupada writes, if a person who is pious and hears about these causes of devastation, he will feel hatred for all these. He'll feel hatred because seeing the consequences of a dharmic process, anybody will feel hatred and he will not indulge in any of this. And he will follow the pious life. He'll follow the life of piety. And by a life of piety, one purifies. Prabhupada writes, piety refers to the process of cleansing of heart. So that is the process of hearing. By hearing, one understands, I should not do this because it is so very sinful. Ultimately, it will lead to hell. It all starts with false speech. A person who is having some wrong habits and he speaks lie, then everything starts. We may think, nothing wrong will happen if I'll speak something wrong. Just to cover my fault, I'll just speak one time. It doesn't happen like that. It becomes a habit. And then one starts bluffing and then cheating. And all the way, he is degraded more and more and more. So therefore, a pious person, he is very careful not to indulge in any of this. So this piety refers to the process of cleansing the heart. And for the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu has given very clearly, in very simple terms, what is the process of cleansing the heart? Cheto darpana marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam. The more we hear the name, form, pastimes of the Lord, the more we become purified. Pravishtakarnarangrena swanam bhava saroruham dhunoti shamalam Krishna salilasya yatha sharat. As soon as the sound vibration enters the ears and goes to the heart, it purifies the heart of all the contaminations. And then that purified soul never ever leaves the process of Krishna consciousness. He never leaves the lotus feet of the Lord. Dhautatma Purushah Krishna Pada Moolam na munchati Mukta Sarva Parikleshah Pantha Swa Sharanam Yatha. A purified soul, Dhautatma means a purified soul, Krishna Pada Moolam na munchati. He never leaves the lotus feet of Krishna. And because he is not doing anything wrong, he is purified of anything sinful activity. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha, he becomes free from all the troubles. Just like a weary traveler, a person who is traveling for long distance, as soon as he reaches home, he feels a sigh of relief. Pantha Swa Sharanam Yatha. So that's the process of cleansing the heart. So then after describing this, Maitreya Muni says, now I'll describe the descendants of Swayambhuva Manu, the 2 sons. He says, Swayambhuva Manu had 2 sons, Priyavrat and Uttanpad, and they were very, very competent, very, very powerful, and great devotees of the Lord. We have heard previously that in every Manvantar, 6 personalities appear, and they all are expansions of Lord. Who are they? Manvantara Manudeva Manuputra Sureshwara Vishayo Amshaavatarascha Hare Shadvidham Uchyate. In every Manvantar, the ruling Manu, Deva, the prominent Devatas, Manuputra, the sons of Manu, Sureshwara, Indra, Rishaya, the Saptarishis, and Amshaavatar. They are all the empowered or personal expansions. The Amsha avatar is the expansion of the Lord. All the other personalities, they are either Amsha avatars or the empowered incarnations. Hare Shadvidam Uchyate. So these two sons, they were very, very powerful and competent enough to protect. So then he describes first Uttanpad. Uttanpad, he had two queens, Suruchi and Suniti. And Suniti, she was not the favorite one. Although he had affection for both, but Suniti was not the favorite one. Prabhupada writes, Priyavrat was the first son of Swayambhuva Manu, and Uttanpad was the second. So naturally, a question arises, अरे पहले बड़े वाले के बारे में बताओ ना. Later you can tell about the younger one. Why he began with Uttanpad? Because Maitreya Muni was very, very eager to describe the wonderful story of Dhruva. The activities of Dhruva, they are very, very attractive. And Srila Prabhupada, he writes many reasons how the activity of Dhruva is attractive. He says, from the actions of Dhruva, one can learn how to detach oneself from material possessions. That's the first thing. Second, how one can enhance one's devotion by severe austerities. Dhruv Maharaj, what austerity he did. Third, by hearing the activities of Dhruva, one can enhance one's faith in God. Bhagavatam is full of Krishna Katha and Vaishnava Katha. And Vaishnava Katha is actually equally or more powerful than Krishna Katha. Because the more you hear Vaishnava Katha, the more one develops the attraction for the Lord, more one develops the faith in the mercy of the Lord and protection of the Lord. Therefore, previously, Maitreya Muni had said, Shrutasya pumsam suchirashramasya nanvanjasa suribhiridito arthaha tattadgunano shravanam mukunda padarvindam hridayeshu yesham. Anybody who is endeavoring to hear from the spiritual master what he should hear, tattadgunano shravanam, he should hear the glories of the devotees. What is so special about them? Padarvindam hridayeshu yesham. They have Krishna in their heart. So therefore, when you hear about them, and that attraction for Krishna also arises in the heart. So Prabhupada writes, one can develop detachment, one can develop devotion, one can develop faith, one can directly connect with Supreme Lord. One can very soon be elevated to the transcendental platform of devotional service. And the example of Dhruv Maharaj's austerities can immediately generate a feeling of devotional service in the hearts of the hearers. That is the wonderful benefit of hearing Dhruva Katha. It is not an ordinary pastime. It is a very, very powerful pastime. Lord has orchestrated this pastime to give us such a faith and conviction and confidence, nishchay. So that's how Maitreya Muni, he begins the story of Dhruva. Uttanpad, he had two wives, and the younger one, Suruchi, she was not so, Suniti, the elder wife, Suniti, she was not so dear, and Suruchi was very dear. So one day what happened? The small boy, Dhruva, 5 years old boy, he comes and he's trying to sit on the lap of his father. But at that time, Uttam was sitting there and Suruchi was present. And Because Uttam was sitting, Uttanpad didn't welcome Dhruva. He wanted to sit on the lap. That's how children they approach and they show by their expressions. I want to sit. Prabhupada writes, actually, Uttanpad was equally affectionate to both of his sons. But because Suruchi was present, therefore, because she was the favorite wife, he could not show his affection. He could not welcome Dhruva. And taking the advantage of this, Suruchi starts speaking. She says, you do not deserve to sit on the lap of your father or on this throne because you are not born from my womb. If you want to sit on the lap of your father, you have to take birth from my womb. Balopi batanatmanam anya stri garbha samhritam nunam ved bhavan yasya durlabhe arthe manoratah. Oh, my dear child, she's speaking in a very affectionate way. Oh, my dear child, but she is speaking a very harsh language. Oh, you are a child. You are not aware. You are not aware that you are not born from my womb, but from the womb of some other lady. Prabhupada writes, a small child, Dhruva, he was not aware of such discrimination. And Suruchi, out of her pride, she had the pride that I am the favorite wife, favorite queen. So she is informing Dhruva, you are not born from my womb. Therefore, all your efforts, all your manoratha, all your effort to sit on the lap of your father will be failure. You're trying to fulfill a desire which is impossible to fulfill. So, what you should do? If you want to sit still, go and worship the Supreme Lord. She was behaving as if she's a great devotee, but she is just speaking to, give all the uh, bad words and harsh feelings. She was expressing her feelings of envy. Tapasaradhya purusham तस्यैवानुग्रहेण मे गर्भे त्वं साधयात्मानं यदिच्छसि नृपासनं tapasa. You go to the forest, you do tapasya and worship the Supreme Lord, Purusham. And you know what will happen? You do austerity, you die. That's what she's saying. You die. And then by his mercy, tasya anugraha. By his mercy, what will happen? You will take birth from my womb. Garbhe tvam sadhayatmanam. Yadichasi nipasanam, if you want to sit on the throne or if you want to sit on the lap of your father, just go to the forest, do tapasya, die and appear from my womb. Chakravarti Thakur writes, her talk is to show the king that she has devotion, but she is not a real devotee. She is just making a show of devotion. She is not a devotee. And Kshatriya, for a Kshatriya, insult is more difficult to tolerate than death. That's what Krishna tells Arjun in Bhagavad Gita. You will not be able to tolerate the insult. If you go to forest, somebody will criticize you there, you will not be able to tolerate. For a Kshatriya, insult is worse than death. So Dhruva, although a small boy, the Kshatriya blood was flowing. And he became so angry. As a snake who is bitten by the stick, he started hissing, breathing very heavily. Just like a snake who is bitten by beaten by a rod, a stick. Similarly, this Dhruva, he was beaten by the harsh words of Suruchi, and he immediately left his father's palace. So Suruchi and his father, they were staying in a different palace, and Sunuti was staying in a different palace, and went to his mother. Uttanpad could have controlled Suruchi. but he neither controlled nor consoled. He neither controlled Suruchi, neither consoled Dhruva. So as parents, it is a big responsibility. If if parents are not sensitive and they behave in a wrong way, it creates a very, very deep impression in the minds of a child. Actually, somebody will say, Uttanpa didn't do anything. Actually, silence is many times approval. If you're not speaking, that means you are agreeing to it. So Uttanpad approved the behavior of Suruchi by his silence. And Dhruva could not handle this. So Uttanpad, he was, although a great devotee, but it seems that he was not so mature in this situation. Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he speaks that all our sadhana should bring us to a stage where we can act appropriately at the spur of the moment. So that is what decides how much we have advanced in our spiritual consciousness, how we respond to the situations. As it is said, the famous statement, the greatness of a personality is tested in difficult situations. So Tanpad, he didn't act properly. He didn't give his best response. Spiritual life is all about learning to give our best responses. And Dhruva, he was very angry. He, by the time he reached his mother's palace, the maid servants had already informed Suniti what all happened. He was crying. Suniti, she was also very sad. He lifted the child and put him on her lap, and she was also very sad. She knew that I'm not the favorite one. I'm not the favorite wife, and she already had this experience many times in the past. But now her son was in that situation. She was treated like a maid servant. She was not given the same respect as Suruchi. So till now, she was not treated properly, but now her child was not treated properly. That was really painful. But how Suniti responds, that describes who is she, what is her consciousness, how advanced devotee she is. Although she had such a wonderful, glorious child as Dhruva, still she was neglected. And if there are no physical comforts, but still a lady can, tolerate all the physical discomforts if the husband is supportive and loving. Just like in the case of Devahuti, she was in the forest serving Kardamuni with no comforts. Still, she was happily serving because Kardamuni was, she knew that Kardamuni is affectionate and loves me. But Suniti, she was neglected by her husband, although she had a great son Dhruva as her son, you know. Now, so in two verses, in the 15th and 16th verse, Maitravani describes the distress of Suniti. But what is more important is the response of Suniti. That will be described in the 17th verse and onwards. She also started crying. She was also breathing very heavily. She didn't know what to do in this situation. But the first thing which she said, "Oh, my child, please don't wish anything inauspicious for others. Anyone who inflicts pain upon others suffers himself from that pain. These are the first words coming from the mouth of Suniti. Don't desire ill for Suruchi because she has hurt you. Please don't do the same to her. Do not find faults with your stepmother. This is not easy to say. That shows who is Suniti. In such difficult situations, she is giving such a wonderful response. And on top of that, she says, you have experienced the result of the sins which you have committed in previous births. Can you imagine this? It is impossible to speak like this for a person who has not imbibed Krishna consciousness, who is not mature in his or her devotion. She could have said, Arey, ye Surichi aisi hai, I know her. She is always troubling me also. She will suffer. Don't worry, oh child. Oh Dhruva, don't worry. She will suffer her, fate. She says, you are suffering because you must have done something in the past. Many times when the child falls down on the ground and starts crying, what parents do? They beat the ground and they say, ha, would be punishment diya hai, shant ho ja, shant ho ja. But unconsciously what the mind of the child takes, whenever I fall down, it is not my mistake. It is somebody else's mistake. So when the actual problem comes in the life, the child will always think, Abhi, whom to blame? So right from the beginning, children have to be, given this unconscious training. Okay, you have to understand that whatever is happening in your life is because of your actions. Should not blame anyone. So therefore, she is patient. To be patient and not blame anyone requires lots of maturity. So first statement she makes is, don't think ill. Second statement is, bhungte janoyat paradukhatastat. Don't blame the instrument of your karma. So that's how, when Parikshit Maharaj asked that Dharma bull, who is responsible? The Dharma bull, it is obvious, that Kali Purusha has, is beating, he has stake and sword in his hand and is beating the bull. Still the bull says, I don't know. Who is responsible? Maybe Daiva, maybe Kala, maybe Karma. I don't know. You decide, okay? And Parikshit says, that shows you are Dharma. So that's how Suniti, she's not using the philosophy to criticize Suruchi. She is saying you must have done something in the past. That's why you are suffering. And then, she's actually not in the mood of justice also. She's just helplessly giving her child a right guidance. So, many times when we lack resources, then, we may blame people, we may blame circumstances, but Suniti is not doing this. That is how mature a devotee should become. In the first chapter, Bhagavatam, first canto, tapatrayon mulanam, this word comes, dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam sadam, vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam. The miseries don't trouble a devotee. How come? Miseries come in the life of devotees also. Then why it is described tapatrayon mulanam? Because the devotee doesn't suffer from the miseries. Miseries are compulsory, suffering is optional. So Tanpad, he didn't act appropriately, but Suniti is acting very, very appropriately. She is showing what is right response. And then, on top of that, she says, oh my child, whatever your stepmother has said, that is true. What Suruchi said? If you want something, go and worship Krishna. Tapasa Aradhya Purusham. He says, Tapasa Aradhya Purusham. She had said, Suniti saying she has told right. She has given a very, very appropriate instruction to me. Satyam Suruchya Bhitam Bhavan me Yadur Bhagaya Udare Grihita Tanyena Vriddhascha Vilajjate Yam Bharyeti Vavodum Idaspatirmam. Say Satyam Suruchya Abhitam. So whatever Suruchi has said, it is true. Yat Durbhagaya Udare, you are born from the womb of a unfortunate woman, and you are fed from my breast, and that's how you are grown up. So what can be done? You are unfortunate. And Bharyeti Vavodum Idaspatirmam, and your father, he does not consider me his wife or even his maid servant. He is ashamed to accept me. She knows she must have undergone so much of the pain in the past also because of this neglect, but she's not allowing that bitterness to destroy the consciousness of her child. That is how a mature devotee is. Whatever happens in his or her life, the devotee always, gives a right understanding, never ever allows the miseries to and the wrong situations to affect the people surrounding him or her. In the case, we have seen how Radhanath Swami Maharaj, when he was in New Vrindavan, it was such a difficult situation there. And there were no facilities. He was there somewhere up in the one of the mountains serving, and very meager facilities. And many times he had to break the ice and take bath with that ice cold water. But throughout his life, all the devotees who are closely connected with him, they tell that Maharaj never ever spoke anything wrong about anyone. It was so very natural to speak, and it was not false also. But still, that is one of the examples of how a devotee should never ever allow, his problems or her problems to affect other people. That's what Suniti is doing here. He's saying, I don't, please don't have any ill feelings. And she says, please do as your stepmother has said. Worship the Supreme Lord without envy. So that's the height of positive attitude. She underwent so much, but still she's saying, जो भी वो बोल रही है ना माँ सही बोल रही है तुम्हारी सौतेली माँ. Aradhyadhokshajapad Padmam. She says, please worship the Adhokshajapad Padma. Worship the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. She's ignoring all the bad things of Suruchi, and she's focusing on the right, the very small good thing which she has said. That is called as a wonderful devotee. Always focusing on the right thing. We heard in the previous chapter how Sati, she tells Daksha, you have, you know, you are finding fault in a person who is completely faultless. Lord Shiva is Ati Mahattam, and you are Ati Asadhutam. Ati Mahattam means he finds good qualities even if there are none. And Ati Asadhutam means he finds faults even if there are none. She says, you are Ati Asadhutam. And that's what Suruchi and Ati Mahattam. Lord Shiva is Ati Mahattam. Suniti, she is showing the quality of Ati Mahattam, not finding fault. Even if there is, there are so many faults, she is finding something good, even if there is none. Suruchi had no intention of, giving some good advice to Dhruva. She was just, speaking harsh words. She was telling to die. You die and appear from my womb. Suniti saw that good in that arrogant Suruchi. And she says, she's your mother. Uktam samatrapi. She's your mother. She has said something good for you. So Prabhupada writes, indirectly, the words of Suruchi were a benediction for for Dhruv Maharaj. For because of the influence of his stepmother's words, he became a great devotee. So, when we take the reversals in right attitude under the guidance of a bona fide teacher, those reversals can pave the path of the greatest fortune. And that's what happened in the life of Dhruva. Because he was guided properly, apparent reversals became the cause of his greatest fortune. So now, Suniti, she is saying, oh, जो भी वो बोल रही हैं, बराबर बोल रही हैं, just follow. Dhruva may say, well, so will I enter the womb of that sinful woman by worshipping the Lord? Suniti says, you will attain a perfection. You will attain a position greater than Brahma. Please go and worship the Lord. Do not lament. And that's what is explained in 4 verses. She speaks 4 verses. Yasyangri padmam paricharya vishwa विभावनायत गुणाभिपत्ते अजोध्यतिष्ठत् खलु पारमेष्ठ्यम padam jitatma श्वसनाभिवन्द्यम. She is giving 2 examples. By worshipping the Lord, what you can achieve, just see your great grandfather Brahma, how he achieved the power to create this universe by worshipping the Lord. See your grandfather Manu, how he achieved material happiness by worshipping the Lord. So anything you want, worship the Lord. That is what is described here. When you endeavor, then Lord shows mercy. That Damodar Leela, 2 fingers too short, endeavor and mercy. When one worships the Supreme Lord and one works for him, then Lord gives mercy. So Dhruva is a small child, but Suniti, she is recommending the process of devotional service. And how she is recommending? Tameva vatsa shraya bhritya vatsalam mumokshubhi mrigya padabja paddhatim ananya bhave nija dharma bhavite manah avasthapya bhajasva purusham. Oh vatsa, oh my boy, tameva, tam eva, take shelter of that Supreme Lord, ashraya, tameva ashraya. Oh vatsa, take ashraya of that Bhrityavatsal. The Lord is Bhrityavatsal. So Brahma has taken shelter, Manu has taken shelter and achieved perfection. You also take shelter. Tameva. You also take shelter of that Supreme Lord. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, oh my child, what can I do for you? I have heart of one mother. Lord is Bhrityavatsal. He has the heart of millions of mothers. Mumokshubhi mrigya padabja paddhatim. People who seek liberation from the cycle of birth and death, they take shelter of lotus feet of the Lord. Therefore, what you should do? Ananya bhave nija dharma bhavite. Become purified by executing devotional service. Manah avasthapya bhajasva. Don't deviate for a moment. Manah avasthapya. Fix Krishna in your heart. And bhajasva, always engage in your devotional, in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. So she is recommending the process of Bhakti Yoga. So although externally speaking, it is such a unfortunate incident, very, very painful incident, but when you add Bhakti in anything, it becomes all auspicious. Because Bhakti is all auspicious. Shubhada. Bhakti creates auspiciousness in the life of everyone. And Bhagavatam is a testimony of this. Throughout Bhagavatam, hundreds of examples are there. How a person, by taking to the process of devotional service, becomes auspicious, fortunate. Right in the beginning of the first canto, Narad Muni, small boy, only mother, no other shelter. She also dies by being bitten by a snake. Narad Muni, what he says? It is so very great mercy of the Lord. Tada tadahamishyasya bhaktanam shammabhipsitah anugraham manyamanah pratishtham dishamuttaram. Lord always desires auspiciousness for his devotee. Kunti is praying, please give more troubles. Parikshit cursed to die in 7 days. He's happy and saying, no problem. Whatever that son of that sage has created, let it come and bite me. You keep on singing the glories of Lord. Dashatvalam gayata Vishnu Gatha. Chitraketu, okay, no problem. Everything is happening by the modes. I am not fearful. Vidurji, Duryodhan throws him out of the palace and he says, okay, no problem. It is the mercy of the Lord. So that's how throughout the Bhagavatam, unlimited stories are there. So when problem comes in the life of a devotee, there are two options: tolerate and continue, or terminate the process of bhakti. Hey, this is not possible for me. I worship the Lord so much with all the faith, and this is what He is giving. Forget it. But mature devotee, he never gives up. So therefore, he says, actually, I have tried my best to find any other option, but I do not find any other option. Just like when we search in Google for something and various options come. Suniti said, I have searched completely and there's only one option I am getting. Worship the Supreme Lord. There's only one result showing in the Google search of Suniti. Take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Nanyam tatah padma palasha lochana dukkachidam te mrigayami kanchana yo mrigyate hastagrihita padmaya shriyetarai ranga vimrigyamanaya na anyam. I cannot find any other person than the lotus-eyed Lord. Padma Palashalochana. What will happen, Dukkha Chidam. All your distress will be destroyed. There is only one person capable of destroying your distress, O Dhruva, that is Supreme Lord. Yom Rigaye Has Grihita Padmaya. Even Lakshmi, who is sought by many devatas, she is engaging in service of that Supreme Lord only. So therefore, she's saying, I can't find anyone else. People of this world, they have many shelters. Jaya, Atma, Jaya, Suta, Agar, Pashu, Dramin, Bandhu, Rajya. Oh, I'll take shelter of my body, my wife, my husband, my children, my family, my house, my wealth, my property. All these things will protect me. All these are themselves fallible. How they will protect us? देह अपत्य कलत्र आदिषु आत्मसैन्यषु असत्सु अपि तेषां प्रमत्तो निधनं पश्यन्नपि न पश्यति. A mad person does not see that they themselves won't survive. How they will protect us? So therefore, Suniti, she has seen it all. And she has come to this realization. Nothing can help. Only Krishna. Prabhupada writes, Suniti pointed out here with that the benediction received from the Supreme Lord and that received from Devatas are not on equal level. Please don't go to any other Devata. There's only one person you should go to, that is Krishna. Even if you want something material, go to Krishna. It is not that if you want to love, go to Krishna. If you want material things, go to Devatas. No. Anything you want, go to Krishna. He'll give that. But in the process of giving, he'll purify our desire also. Akama, sarvakamo, va, mokshakam, udardhi, tivrena bhakti yogena, yajeta purusham param. So a devotee gets purified when he asks from Krishna. Satyam dishatyarthitamarthito ninam naivarthado yat punararthitam yataha swayam vidhatte bhajatam anichchatam ichchapidhanam nijapada pallavam. It is true. If you go to Krishna and ask for wealth, he'll give it. Arthitam, arthito ninam. But he will not give in a way that you will ask for the same thing again. Naivarthadoyat punararthitam yata. How does he do that? He comes himself in the life of devotees. Swayam, he comes himself. He gives himself to the devotee. Even if devotee says, I don't want you, anichchata. Krishna says, no, no, I have to come. That's how I work. 1 + 1 3. I will surely come. And when Krishna comes, he is ichchapidhanam. He is the reservoir of all fulfillment of desires. Then no desires left. No desires remain in the life of a devotee. So that's how Suniti is guiding. And this is the only description of Suniti given. After this, this verse 23, there is no description of Suniti comes. Only after everything is done and Dhruva is going back, that time he remembers, oh, my mother, she showed me the right path. She is my Path Pradarshak Guru. After 36,000 years, Dhruva remembers. He was the one. So that's how Dhruva is showing whatever somebody does for us to bring us close to Krishna, we should never ever forget that. Dhruva is remembering. That is gratitude. That is the minimum courtesy to be grateful. And Dhruva is showing that how to be grateful. He remembered Suniti after 36,000 years. So that's how Dhruva, he is guided so very wonderfully by Suniti. And he embarked on the journey. So I will stop here and we'll continue next time what happened later. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.